Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new R.A. the Rugged Man album, Legends Never Die. R.A. the Rugged Man is a New York rapper, and this new LP of his is essentially the guy's celebrated return. Hey! His last full-length LP, Die Rugged Man Die, came out about 10 years ago at this point. But the dude's very long career but short discography can be explained pretty easily just by listening to his mouth. Sure, a lot of the lyrics that R.A. throws out there are pretty nasty, are pretty vile, but he also doesn't seem to hesitate when it comes to pointing out bullshit that he sees in the music industry that I'm sure has gotten him in more hot water than just some foul language. As far as the music industry and the rap game goes, he doesn't really strike me as the kind of guy that likes to play ball either, and he's really kind of bitter ever so slightly about how he's gotten shafted in the music industry, and I can certainly understand why. In a recent interview with Uncut, R.A. revealed that early on in his career, as he was gaining buzz behind his music, and Jive and Def Jam were basically scheming on how to market him, he was eventually faced with their plan that they would hide his white identity. Despite getting the short end of the stick from his record labels, R.A., with his very real and rebel and sort of no BS persona, earned a lot of connections musically with a lot of different artists, including Wu-Tang as well as Mobb Deep, the Notorious B.I.G., which is an endorsement he brags about pretty heftily, as well as Jedi Mind Tricks. And R.A. still very much breathes this era of hip-hop. He's kind of a traditionalist, and still today on this new record of his, he's not really interested in making nice industry friends and connections. He's the kind of guy that if you're gonna like him, it's gonna be on his terms. In the first minute of music or so that this album kicks off with, on the intro track, R.A. lashes out at hipster, skinny jean wearing emo rappers, industry and mainstream puppets, or just in general people who aren't ready to hear real hip hop, which is about rhymes and writing them down in notebooks. He even takes a swing at internet nerds. Stop! Personally, I think it's pretty silly that R.A. would take a swing at people who could become potential fans. Still, it's not like his disclaimer has no accuracy whatsoever. His music really is for people who want to hear fast, impressive flows, that want to hear lyrics and dissect bars. He's not the most emotive or over-the-top rapper you're ever going to hear. His voice, for the most part on his tracks, is pretty flat and monotone, with his low, heavy-ass voice. The lead single off of this LP, The People's Champ, breaks through with a huge freaking beat. It is the anthem of the album, and it is loud, it is proud. The beat on this thing is bombastic. It's a little cheesy, but the dude has some pretty funny lines, comparing his flow to the Sistine Chapel, and this one line about having identity issues and self-hatred, and calls himself a pissed-off wigga who just stepped off the slave ship. The dude is nasty, offensive, politically incorrect in more ways than one, and he couldn't be farther away from being apologetic about it. The next track on here, a track that I also like, which also has a sort of cheesy beat and a really cheesy hook. So groovy now. I'm still won over by how charismatic this dude is. The song is peppered with some references to older hip-hop music that influenced R.A. the Rugged Man, but mostly the track is a look at his kind of weird personality, painting himself as this dirty guy who's got stinky breath. He's grimy as hell, and there's even this line in here where he calls himself a white guy who's ruining what black people invented. There are a lot of spots on this LP where R.A. comes off as a self-hating asshole who I'm sure many of you will love to hate as well. But there are spots on this thing where, man, is this guy earnest and heartfelt. The song Legends Never Die, the title track on this thing, is a look at his relationship with his father. Another track on here where I'm not really 100% on the beat. It's this heavy-handed rhythm with a little bit of acoustic guitar sampled in the back. Just feels too much like it's grabbing for sadness. But R.A.'s performance on this beat, to me, makes it completely irrelevant. The song opens up with just R.A. being with his father in his final moments in the hospital, his dad fighting cancer. But it's not really a depressing track because it evolves into just him reflecting on the amazing relationship that he had with his father. How he reflects upon his dad is just so beautiful and so sentimental. It seriously makes me feel like I wish I could mean half as much to someone one day. And he paints his dad as this guy who was loving, who was kind, but also sort of crazy, a trickster, a music fan, a Vietnam vet, and someone who was really proud of his son for doing what he wanted to do and sort of chasing his musical dreams. And at the end of the track, where literally R.A. gets choked up saying the final words of his last verse, it's a really intense moment. There are some other highlights on this LP, like The Dangerous Three, which features Brother Ali, as well as Master Ace. It's one of the few tracks where I really love the instrumental on the track. There's a really epic beat change up in the middle of each verse that each MC on this track handles very nicely. Verse for verse, R.A.'s collaboration with Hopsin doesn't go over too bad, and hearing him, Vinny Paz, and Sadat X, a rapper who R.A. cut one of his earliest singles with, like back in the 90s, was like a blast from the past. There are spots on this album where R.A.'s very just abrasive personality doesn't completely vibe with me. Either I feel it's just too corny, or he's just trying too hard to say something silly or offensive or just insensitive just to kind of But there are other spots on here where he comes off as foul-mouthed but self-aware, like on the song Shot in the Head, where he's going on and on and on about how much of a disgusting person he is, so much so that he's making liberals want to give him the death penalty. Conservatives are wishing he was aborted. And right in the middle of the song, this weird voice comes in and says, hey, why don't you rap about something positive like politics or like the environment or something? I'm not even going to spoil the verse for you, but the song gets even more hilarious from there. The only thing about the track that I think is really absolutely crappy, but I guess it really sort of goes with the theme of the song, is the surprise opera vocal that covers the hook on this track. Yes, an opera vocal, which shows up more than once on this album. And in this particular instance, it's singing, I'm a piece of shit, I'm a fucking bad fuck. R.A. spits a very apolitical verse on this track, but he goes further to make a song like Media Midgets, for example, where to me, it really kind of feels like he's trying too hard to be like, fuck the TV, fuck the radio. And I do agree generally with the sentiment of the song. It's just that here, and maybe a few other moments on this album, I feel like he's just trying too hard to school me, learn me something. And another track on here, Bang Boogie, while it is a good track, it really only feels like half of a complete song. And I know I've already said that there are some beats on this album that I don't really care for, but I could seriously rail against some of the instrumentals on this album. Corny, classical music samples all over them that take the most obvious and endlessly sampled pieces of music from these great compositions. Songs like Tom Thumb, Laugh Clown Laugh, as well as underground hits. And the song Hallelujah feels like some Tech Nine and Chris Calico afterbirth. Seriously. The hook and the beat on this track is so gaudy, even ICP would think twice about using it. It's got to be the worst chorus on the entire album. Second worst, Silver Medal goes to the song Love to Fuck, which has a sung R&B hook on it about putting it up that butt. It does kind of make me giggle though. Overall, R.A. the Rugged Man can be a kind of dicey dude. There are moments when I'm completely repulsed by him, and other spots on here like the closing track, Life is Precious. If you give this track a listen, one of the most moving hip-hop songs you'll hear all year. R.A. is an acquired taste. I do think there are a lot of likable qualities about him, and I would like to say that this comeback of his is maybe just the start of a new beginning and something greater to come in the future, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he's the kind of artist who is sort of stuck in his ways and just wants to do what he wants to do without worrying about evolving or doing something new or sort of doing something revolutionary. He's just gonna kind of do what's comfortable for him, and that's completely fine if it pleases his fans. I'm feeling a decent to strong 6 on this album. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Thanks for watching. Anthony Fantano, R.A. the Rugged Man, forever.